Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Digital Ship webinar, How to Make Maritime Software Projects Work. We have three great experts on the panel today. Let me introduce you to them. Sifra Westendorp, Digital Development Manager of Anthony Veder.
Good morning.
Hello, Sifra. Andreas Polidis, IT Advisor of Ionic Shipping, based in Greece.
Hello, everybody.
Hi. And Stefanos Christakis, Innovation Manager of Euronav, also based in Greece.
Hello, everyone.
So very soon you will hear what these three people understood is important in managing software projects. After their short speeches, we will open a live discussion, of course. So I invite you to send your questions to the Q&A chat. I also invite you to vote for the questions because the questions that will receive most of your votes will be proposed to the speakers to answer first. So to get started, I would like to invite a founding editor of Digital Ship to give a few words about why we chose this topic for the webinar. He will also facilitate the discussion afterwards with me. Karl, I pass over to you.
Okay, thank you, Vaida. So what the purpose today is to try and get a better discussion going about what maritime project management means in the digital world. The reason why it seems like a good subject is our discussions we normally have get far too much about products a lot of the time. We talk about the products that people are selling, the products that people are buying, and when it comes to making projects successful, the actual products themselves are only a small part of making projects successful. So there's many different stages of making a project successful. So you've got to understand where you are to begin with and what people want, what they're doing. You've got to understand the map of software products that are available. You've got to make a choice about what you think people want to use. And then you have to get all the alignment going, which happens in both ways. You've got to align the people with the software. So set the software up so people can use it, and also support people in developing how to use it. And of course, if you got the first part wrong, you didn't understand what people actually wanted, then your fifth part is going to be much harder, and it all takes an enormous amount of understanding. So what I'd like to do is not just talk about it, but also create a better way to talk about it, because this is such an important subject which we don't talk about anywhere near as much as we could. I mean, there's other people trying to make a discussion about these kinds of things, like the Project Management Institute and so on, but in the maritime sector, it would be great if we can figure out better ways to do this. So we'll try and write an article about this webinar to put in a magazine and pass it around, and maybe encourage other people to share their own thoughts, because it's very much a experience-driven thing, learning from what other people did. So we've got three IT managers going to speak. We're going to Rotterdam, and then we're going to Athens and Athens again. We'll start off with Sifra Westendorp in Rotterdam, who's the digital development manager of Anthony Veder, which operates his gas shipping company with 32 vessels, of which 21 are ethylene carriers. And the first line on her slide says that implementation should be only a minor part of your worries. So I guess the rest of the worries are everything else. So I'd like to invite Sifra to make the talk, please. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Karl. I will now start sharing my screen. Is it working? Yes.
Yes.
All right, so first of all, thank you for having me, and people at home, thank you for being here today. Today I would like to share with you my thoughts on what I think a software implementation project will be successful. And my statement is basically the implementation should be only a minor part of your worries. Because let's face it, software implementation is difficult. But today I would like to give you some food for thought, some other elements other than the implementation itself, which make your project a success. But first, let me briefly introduce myself. My name is Sifra Westendorp. I work as a digital development manager at Anthony Veder for 2 years now. Before that, I worked in the operations department, which taught me a lot about shipping and gave me great insights in how a company works and specifically how Anthony Veder works. And today my department is responsible for the formulation and execution of our digital strategy. And we run several digital initiatives such as implementing remote assistance, reducing the administrative workload on the vessels, changing the way we share information with our customers, and predictive maintenance. Last year, I completed the digital transformation program at the Erasmus University, and I am a certified yoga teacher. Fun fact. So I started my, my presentation with the statement that I think the implementation should be only a minor part of your worries. I would like to share now with you a couple of insights, keys to success. And my first point is that I think you should be focusing on the why of your project rather than on the how or the tool itself. Because it's important to do so because you need to understand what problem you are trying to solve for people or for the business. Because if you fail to understand that, you might end up with a tool that is not actually solving anything. And another important reason to focus on the why is that you should be able to convince people of the value your project will bring. You need to provide or present a solid business case to get the support you need and to get the company to invest in your project. And this will really mitigate the risk that people start to question the reason of existence of your project 6 months down the road. My second point, and I think we still underestimate this, is that I think you should have very strong change management skills. Because let's face it, people all say they want change, they want better ways of working, but when they actually have to change, they start to sabotage or they don't really cooperate. So it is very important to get people on board very early on, to understand their ways of working, the problems they are facing. And you need to be very open and transparent about what will change, about what won't change, and most importantly, how they will benefit from your initiative. And this will get you the support you need throughout your project. And my last point for today is that I think you should go slow to go fast. Every $1 spent in the initiation phase will save you $100 in the execution phase. And this is, of course, a bit of an overstatement, but what I'm trying to bring across is that I think that the majority of your energy should go into the preparation phase rather than going into full execution mode right away. And I can already start hearing you think, preparation is dull, I want to go full force, I want to start implementing. But I can assure you that if you do this right, it will save you a lot of headaches once you start executing. So you need to think about stuff like, does my project start under the right conditions? Is there a strategic fit between my project and the company strategy? Does my solution really solve a problem, or is it just a cool tool that I want to have? Do you have the support from the business? Can they provide resources and the knowledge that you need? Because you can't do everything by yourself. And I mentioned it already. Can you provide a solid business case? Because again, this will avoid the discussion about the existence of your project. And something that I learned the hard way is having a robust project management method, because this will really mitigate the risk of overrunning budgets, running out of deadlines, and keep everyone on board. And the last point that I think you should already start thinking about during the preparation phase is how will you successfully have the organization adopt your solution? Because again, you don't want to end up in a situation where people won't use your tool. So this is a lot of talk, and now I would like to show you how I put this into practice. I've taken one of my projects that is reducing the administrative workload on board of our vessels. And I would like to show you how I approach such a project. So we have a very structured way of working. And first we start with discovering the why of the project. So why are we doing this? What is it that it will bring to our company? What is the opportunity we have at hand? And can I get the support from the business that I need? Then we start to dive into the problem itself. So in this example, I did a lot of interviews with people in the office, people, the crew. I stepped on board to observe the way people are working, to really understand the issues they are facing. I organized a lot of workshops to get to the root cause of the problem. And it turned out that the problem we thought was the problem didn't really turn out to be the root cause of the situation. So only then we start to think about the solution itself. So instead of finding a problem to fit on a tool, we try to find a tool that actually solves my problem. And we all know that there is an abundance of tools available on the market. They all claim that they will reduce the workload for people, but does it actually solve my problem, or is it just fighting symptoms? And after this phase has been successful, only then we start to think about the implementation. We first run a proof of concept, a pilot, and then a full implementation. And from my experience, about 75% of my time for this project goes into preparation, and only 25% of the time goes into execution. So this proves my point that the implementation itself is only a minor part. So, in summary, I wanted to give you some food for thought. And the takeaways for today are, in my opinion, really focus on the why. What problem are you trying to solve? What value will it bring to your company or your customer or whatever? Show very strong change management skills, because you want people on board. You don't want them to sabotage your project, and you need to have support. You need to accompany them on this change journey. And the last one, go slow to go fast. Preparation is key. It's a bit of an open door, but I think we forget it too many times. So, thank you for listening. Oh, shit. Thank you for listening. I will very briefly back, because I wanted to let you know that I would love to learn from your experience and from your approach on project. So really feel free to get in touch. Here are my contact details, and maybe you can have a digital coffee or something. Wow. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah. No, it's. I guess there's a lot of experience. We're all doing the same things, and I'll be very interested to know about what the root causes were, maybe offline later, or and also very interested to know about your yoga experience, because it's very people skills are very important here, and I guess teaching yoga is all about people. So, but I'll let other people ask the questions first. But we'll move on now to Mr. Polidis, who's the IT advisor of Ionic Shipping. So they're based in Vaida in Athens, and have 7 tankers and 16 bulk carriers. He's the IT advisor, and the title of the talk is called "How to Make Software Projects Work on Board." So I'd like to welcome Andreas. Thanks.
Okay, good morning from me as well to all of you. Just a second. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
I hope you can. Okay. So, good morning to all of you. my presentation will actually focus on more practical parts of the implementation, and actually the part of the implementation that takes place on board. Sifra very well and very thoroughly discussed about the overall management of a software project, and I think she covered everything that I would say. But so I want to focus on the onboard implementation, because I believe that in most cases, this is the difficult part and the more challenging part because of the environment. Everybody knows how challenging is the onboard environment. So I will focus on that. And actually, I'm going to focus on some let's say, factors that we believe that are the success factors for such an implementation. It goes without saying that there will definitely be a methodology, a project management methodology by side that is going to support this implementation. But apart from that, there are some specific factors that we take in serious consideration when we try to implement the software on board. Some of these factors may be, maybe already included in methodologies, or maybe are, goes without saying, but still for us play a significant role. First of all, it has to be very clear the scope of the project, and I'm always referring to the scope on board. I mean, what is going to be the benefit for this project to implement it on board the vessel. The second one, from my perspective, is the most important. We need to identify the user's characteristics, the crew. I mean, these are going to be our customers in this case. So we need to make sure that we understand how these people are going to be involved in this project. Of course, training and user involvement is an overall approach, but I will give some more details on that. A very important factor is that the crew is changing. So you may start a project, and until the project is finished, always referring on board, crew may have changed. So your customer or the users may have changed. And we need to find a way to address these changes. And of course, there is a very technical part, which is the infrastructure. And I'm referring to this one because I have seen that in some cases, the vessels, they don't have, let's say, adequate infrastructure to support the software needs. And you may have the perfect project management, you may have the perfect solution on board, but then it's being installed on infrastructure that is not able to perform, and then you degrade the performance of the whole project. Oops, I'm sorry. Okay. Now, the first thing is you need to identify the benefits. Well, we're not running any project as long as there is a benefit for that. We're not doing it just for the sake of idea. We're doing it because we need to have some benefits out of it. And we need to identify that, the short term, the long term. We need to identify the changes on the daily task of the vessel, on the operations, how these are going to be affected. Some we're looking forward to be affected in the good way, but there might be some effects that may do some operations a little bit more complicated to gain on the long term. But we need to identify all this information. Of course, we need to identify the resources and effort required from the vessels. Sifra already said that sometimes, you need to separate the operations part from the project management part. I think Sifra didn't say that on the presentation, but we had a discussion before the presentation. I think she mentioned that. So she's very right on that. We need to distinguish these two parts. The vessel does have an operations workload to do, but when you run a project, a software project, you have to include that on their daily tasks. So we need to identify the resources needed and the efforts required, and make sure that we can have both these parts running on board, the operation and the project management. And for me, very important is that we need to share all this information with the users, in this case, with the crew. They need to be aware why we're doing that. They need to be involved. They need to understand that something good is coming, so as to be positive on these changes. Now, when it comes to the user's characteristics and the crew characteristics, nationality is a very important factor. I will give a short example. I mean, the Greek crew have a specific mentality about how they act on board. They take more initiatives, while the Philippines are people that probably follow guidelines and rules. We need to take into consideration these characteristics. So when we involve the users into the project management, to take advantage of their specific mentality and capabilities based on nationality. The age range is something that we always take into consideration on a project, at least we do. But when we talk about the crew members, this has an extra reason to take into consideration, because we have people that are sailing on board that probably is not the internet generation. So we need to take this into account and make sure that these people will follow up with any software changes. Of course, background, education, culture, these also are elements that will guide us on how we are going to shape the project on board. And the final thing is that we need to know how committed to the company they are. Because I have seen situations where if the crew is not very happy with the company and you try to make changes, they don't follow. And instead of being, the people that are going to boost the project are the people that they're actually holding it back. So we need to make sure that when we start a project on board, all these elements are in the positive part of the, have a positive sign. Training, of course, it goes without saying, but we have a perspective saying that we need to train or familiarize the people with the software or with the solution prior to the implementation. In most cases, what is happening is that you do the implementation, or during the process of the implementation, you're trying to train the users. Our perspective is a little bit different. I mean, we need to start before that. They need to know in advance what is coming. Probably it's not going to be the full training, but definitely they will need to have a familiarization on a demo environment or on a test environment to realize what they will have to deal in the future. Of course, all the methods of training, manual, CBT, online, on board, with physical presence, whatever is possible, we should use it. Training is a very important factor. We have the role of the power user on board. I mean, this is a role that is being used in project management when we're talking in general project management in the office. But when we're talking about on board, we also use this power user role. I mean, we're trying to find the person, the crew member, that can actually become the power user to be the contact point for us when we're talking on a remote session, or the contact point for the rest of the crew on board. And of course, one more factor that we take into consideration is that we try to limit what they're doing with the solution or with the software based on their needs. We don't need to give them any more access rather than what they actually need. Because providing with unlimited access or access to modules that probably will be useful to them, you probably either provide, you may confuse them, or you provide them with more information that they need. So we're trying to be very specific and give them only access to what they need. As I said, we have to deal with the crew changing. You start the project, we have a specific crew, they have all the qualifications to do a very good implementation, but until the implementation is finished, you have to change them. Maybe even the power user has to change. So we need to take this into consideration. And what we do is we're trying to, if there is a crew change to take place, we make sure that the knowledge is transferred from the one crew member to the other. Definitely the manning agents training material should always be updated in advance, and make sure that the new people coming on board will already be aware of what we're doing and what are the prospects of this project. And of course, as I said, we're trying to maintain the power user role with the new one, and always make sure that the power user is on board to support this implementation. Finally, as I said, the infrastructure is an important part. I mean, you need to have the proper infrastructure on board to make sure that the application are running smoothly, it's running under a good performance, it is reliable, because, as I said, you may have the best solution, but if it's not working properly because of the infrastructure, you actually end up with a solution that is not good. And it's not a problem with the solution, but it's a problem of the overall approach to the project. So I believe that infrastructure is an important role. And this is what we're trying to do in our vessels. We're trying to keep the infrastructure in the highest possible level in order to be able to support our needs. this is it from my side. I hope I gave you some good food for thought about how to implement a project on board. These are the factors that we strongly support when we do a project management on software on board. And I will also be happy if you would like to contact me for any further details. As I said, as Sifra said, for the digital coffee maybe. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, no, it's very interesting. There's a lot of detail you go into and how to do it. And it's very interesting question from Richard Abrahams in the questions about Agile. So Agile is often treated as a bit of religion in this world. And it seems to me what we need is the opposite of Agile. It's a very, very structured approach, detailed, methodical approach to what we're doing rather than this Agile sounds like a lot of experimentation, but maybe we'll save that discussion for later. But I'd now like to introduce Mr. Christakis, who's the Innovation Manager of Euronav. So also based in Athens, operating 74 tankers, including 44 VLCCs, and the talk's called Bridging the Gap Between Business and IT. So I'd like to welcome Stefanos. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for Digital Ship for having me, and thank you for everyone participating, and also for the two people that already presented, which was very useful. You see my presentation shares a lot of what they already discussed. I hope you can see my slides now. All right. So let me start. My name is Stefanos Christakis. I am an IT Innovation Manager at Euronav. I've been here for almost 3 years. I have a background which is not in shipping, actually. It is in software development. So I have been, I made this transition from a software development company to a shipping company. And then I think this makes me a bit of, you know, I have a lot more insights on why sometimes software projects go wrong. So I will try to share this in my presentation with you. Let me try to move it on. Okay, yes, efficient digital transformation, that's the role. And how to bridge the gap between business and IT. This is what I will try to focus on. First of all, here in Euronav, this is the basic, how to guide or a rule of thumb of how we start projects. I wanted to mention this because it's a basis about what I'm going to discuss next. So first we identify what the need is, then we will go out and we look for available software. Then we sit together and we take a decision, and the options that we have and that we have we're looking is either we develop something in-house. This is actually I would say, probably the least desirable option. We're trying to move away from that for a lot of reasons. Or we outsource the development to a development company. Or the third option is to buy something off the shelf. So then we go through a procedure of request for interest, for RFQ, etc. Plus, if we go in that direction of an off-the-shelf solution, we try to make sure that we have we can also evolve further the software. So we rarely rely on a solution that is like it is and that's it, and you can never touch it. We want to have the flexibility, even if it is ready, that we can apply a tweak to it, or we can make it suit our needs, especially if it is something that is not targeted for maritime, if it's something for shore personnel, which again, you may find that the shipping industry has peculiarities that you want to address. So in general, we look for partners and we want to avoid vendor locking. This allows us to be flexible, and you know, the one thing I've learned about shipping in these 3 years is that it is very volatile. Things are changing all the time. You have even the needs of the business are changing all the time. The market fluctuates widely, and then priorities are coming from all sorts of directions. So you need to be flexible. So that's why we cannot have we cannot be locked with decisions that we take. I have here a couple of slides that I will go through quickly. I'm sure everyone is familiar. This is the normal traditional software development process. I see already in the chat that there is a discussion started about waterfall versus agile, etc. But I think even if I can sense from Sifra and from Andreas that you will see this is not really the main focus. You can go either way. You can go the waterfall approach, which is here, from inspiration to research to design, then code, test, rollout, or you can do it in a more iterative way, which is recommended. I fully agree, but it's not the main issue that will determine the success or failure of your project. And let me explain what I mean. So the most important thing for me is that you focus a lot on the design phase, even testing during design, if you can call it that, test-driven, as it's the term in software development industry. So a lot of preparation, like Sifra mentioned, mockups. Try to picture the end result. How will it look? Avoid, just having chats about it and discussions, because you end up in the situation that Sifra showed with a very nice, a picture of what I said is not what you understood, is not what the developer created, is not what finally was made available to the end user. So clarify the use case exactly, create scenarios that explain not just the particular use case, but the whole end-to-end usage of the application. And this is what is the actual end product. This is very important. You can never underestimate or you can never do enough of this preparation. Then the other thing that is actually the title of my presentation about bridging the gap, is that you will see people that are in the business, so in the operations department, in the maintenance, in the HSQE department, whatever, or the chartering even, they normally lack the insight about how software works, about what is possible with the software, what is easy to do, what is difficult, etc. On the other hand, you have either a software development company or a software developer person, or even a ready product, which is also something that is the opposing force, I would call it. And these two things, don't go very well. They need a lot of, they need someone in the middle to help and translate. On the one side, you have the business saying, okay, this is what I want. But, they say, they have some vision in themselves. Maybe they have seen a software already somewhere else, or they have seen it in another industry, which is very dangerous. They want to bring something from somewhere else. They don't understand that maybe this doesn't work in shipping. And from the developer point of view, you need some basic things. You need to understand exactly what are you doing right now. This is very important. And what do you want to reach? Sometimes, the business starts describing how you will do that, how you will get from what you're doing to what you want to do, but they don't really tell you what really you want. What is the end result? What are you trying to achieve? Tell me that first, then we'll see how we do it, So these are the kind of things that are very important during the first phases of preparation and of designing what you want. I have one more slide here to further illustrate this point. For me, when you are starting a software project and you are receiving these needs from the business, it's very important to find the right people within that department, within that section of your company, that will be your ambassador and will be your facilitator. This is, okay, maybe a very crude, how to say, separation that I have done here. But in my experience, I've seen these 4 types of people. So there are the visionaries. They can give you a vision, but they don't have the patience to explain it and to really go in the detail and how to say, materialize it, explain it really how it will work. It's nice that they have this vision. It's something you can work on, but this is probably not the guy that will be able to help you in the implementation of the project, in the designing and all the things that I explained earlier. There are some guys, you will see the short-term guys, there's urgent things, you know, this unfortunately comes from higher levels of hierarchy more frequently than we would like. So again, it's not something that you can really work with. And impatient, that this is urgent, can we have this right now? And then if you really question the urgency, sometimes you see it's not really urgent. It's just that, you know, it's not, they haven't really prioritized in a proper manner. The guys that you really want to work with are the ones that have the focus, the patience, and that are actually open to listen. So there might be a ready solution, a software. They need to have the patience to look at it, to see how it works, to be open to other options, to perhaps shift the way they work a bit if needed. And if this means that using this software, they will be much more efficient eventually. This is also generally a very important point, that always the implementation of a software comes together with a change in the process. And it is important to understand that, to understand the impact of this process change and whether in fact it will eventually end up in a more efficient way of work. So I have some general guidelines here about how to do this translation between business needs and software specifications. For example, we generally look for software that is intuitive. I would prefer not even requiring a manual if possible. It should be sometimes, you know, it's nice that software just explains itself. So that is a target. It's not always possible, of course. We try to go back to the basics. Always try to remember what was the root cause, why we are doing this, what is the purpose of the project. Be critical. Don't allow everything to come in. Try to manage the scope, because you will see that a lot of people have different ideas, have a lot of opinions about how it should work, what it should do. It's a role of the business analyst and of the project team to be critical and to challenge that. Also, ownership. It's very important to have in your team people that are in place to take decisions. If you need to change a process, you need to be able to have behind you people that are willing to do that and that are able to take a decision to change that process. And always be willing to clear your head and start over. You will find sometimes you go into endless discussions about a particular specification, how it should exactly work, what is the interface, what is the, you know, anything. Sometimes it just makes sense to go back to the beginning and start over. This is something that always proves to be valuable. I have also a slide here about lessons learned. I think Sifra mentioned, stressed this heavily, and I also want to stress it a lot. Involve people as early as possible. Don't think that just because you heard what they want and you've seen a software that seems to match it, you're okay and you can start, you know, working on the project. Don't do that. Start involving people. Ask for their opinion. Make them a part of your project from the very beginning. The part of the discussion about Agile is always important. Try to have iterations. Don't start working and come back in 3 months with something to show, because then it might be too late. Be always willing to reprioritize. If you show a first demo, you get an opinion, maybe you were going the wrong way, no problem. You can shift, you can pivot your project, you can refocus. Change management, I think it was mentioned a lot, very important. Nominate ambassadors. These are people that we have seen a lot that, you know, the more these people get involved, they are also having a stake. They have invested their time, which means that then they also have an interest for the project to be successful, right? So if you can do that, if you can get people in your team that have invested their time and their resources in this, then it's easier for them to also be the ambassadors in their department, to push for your project, to push your agenda, to explain why this is helpful, to do all the work for you. It's different if you are trying to explain than if they are trying to explain to their colleagues. It's much easier then. You will see a huge gain from that. Communications is also something. When I say communications here, I mean our communications department. Actually, we involve them in the big projects that we're allowed. If we have a project that is going to go to all vessels in the next, I don't know, 5-6 months, like we have now and like we had one last year, then we prepare banners for the vessel, we prepare newsletters, we prepare videos from our heads of operation, from our fleet technical manager, explaining, trying to get, you know, consensus. So it's important to prepare people for what is coming and not to surprise them, you know, that, okay, I didn't know, and now I'm all, you know, I have to do this and I didn't know that, and, you know, to try to make it a smooth transition. I think the last point, if I remember, I don't think I have something else here, is what actually Sifra and Andreas also mentioned. You might have a successful project in the sense that you ran the implementation, you did all the design, you did the training, you rolled out, you were within time, you were within budget, you were within quality, it's working as you promised, but then don't find yourself in the position that the business comes back to you and questions and says, okay, but why did we do this? You know, so what did we gain? That's why you should always question the business value from the beginning and always have in your mind the end result that you're trying to achieve. I think that's it from me. Let me know if you have any. I'm willing to answer any questions, and of course, I'm available for anything related to these experiences.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. That's a great talk, and yeah, it's all the same theme emerging about you need this kind of focus combined with a little bit of experimentation, but not complete experimentation. Maybe we'll have another 10 minutes for questions, I guess. Vaida, do you want to read out one of the questions you want to ask?
Yeah, I mean, we promised the audience to start with a question that received most of the votes. And I see that here, Richard Abraham's question about Sifra's idea, 75% of planning and 25% of the execution is the most popular here. So let's start with that. Basically, Richard wants to know how does the 75-25 idea fit with Agile? And Carlos is also commenting on the same question, and he would like to know your strategy and approach that you apply for your projects.
You can feel free to say you don't like Agile if you like, because people often talk about it like it's religion and you can't possibly criticize it, but I've got a few criticisms of my own, so anyway. Yeah. Sifra, would you like to take that?
Yeah, so I think there are multiple things to this. So first of all, Agile shouldn't be a goal in itself. It's an end. It's a means to an end. And secondly, Agile should never be a reason to just start experimenting and see where it goes. And it still stands that preparation is key, that you still need to understand what the problem it is that you are trying to solve And in my experience, a lot of time is just going into that. And I think agile, an agile methodology starts, well, in our case, when we start, thinking about the solution and start developing a solution. And of course, you can always mix and match a bit. So I think on one hand, you need to have the discipline to really dig into the problem and understand the root causes, show the business value. So that is a very maybe more traditional set approach. And then the agile way of working is iterating on what you have discovered, reshaping it, and of course in developing an actual tool, I think agile is very valuable, because you test and you learn and you adapt and you iterate, and that will get you the business value you have envisioned. So yeah.
Well, there's kind of big picture about how the shipping industry works, and we should know this by now because we've all been professionals and doing it for a long time. But then the part about the software development, that's all new. So maybe the agile approach is more relevant in the software development piece rather than the big picture piece. I don't know if that's something people would agree with.
I can make a comment on this. I agree. Agile is very nice in this sense that you engage people early and you avoid going the wrong direction. But in the terms of change management, you have to draw a line. The MVP, as we call it, the minimum valuable product, as software people call it, is very important, because the change management means that, look guys, we have this new thing now, and you are requested to adopt it. So we train you for this, we try to engage you, everybody is on board, please use it. If it's something that is not really complete yet, wait for the next release, it will become better, be patient. These things will hurt your change management. So it's a balance that you have to keep there. Agile is good. We want Agile, we do Agile in our projects, but we need to keep this balance.
Vaida, do you want to choose another question?
Yeah, just a moment. So I think we answered this agile questions already. Yeah, Rina is asking about the vendors. Do you generally have a firm idea of what you are looking for, or do you prefer to work with any vendor as technology partner to develop a solution together? I guess this question is for everybody. So would like to take it first?
I looked up Rina on LinkedIn. I see you're the marketing manager of Aviva, so that's a very big software, design software. So maybe that's the perspective behind this. So are we looking to buy big software packages or small ones, or how do we think about that?
Yeah, I can comment on this. So one of our guiding principles is that we buy before we build. We are a shipping company. We are not a tech company. And in our experience, developing your own tool will, also require a lot of functional control and maintaining such a tool. And if you buy a tool, then that is being taken care of. So for us, we first buy before we build, but of course there could be a situation where there is no tool available on the market, where we think that developing our own tool is the best way to go. So I think it's a case-to-case situation, but our starting point is buy before we build.
If I can say from our point of view, it's the same. But in addition, I would just add that we are also looking for a vendor that we can also have a say in their roadmap. We want to be if the question is about partnership, yes, we're looking for partners. We're looking for a company, a software development company that we can also steer in our direction. Now, there are a lot of technical questions here. Is it, are you looking to have a specific product built for yourselves, or do you want to steer the roadmap of it? But those are not, they are case-by-case questions to be answered. We want to have a say in the roadmap because, like I said earlier, there are a lot of shipping specific things that we want to be able to address. And it's always different, you know, shipping companies, if you are in maritime software, it may mean you build software for anything ranging from tankers to ferries to, you know, and these are very different in their needs. So it's important for us to have a say in the role.
Andreas, would you like to comment on buy versus build with software?
Karl, I'm really sorry. I have some connection problems. I
right.
lost you for a while, so I had to reconnect and I missed the question. I'm really sorry. If you don't mind, just give me a quick review and I will answer.
If you have a firm idea of what software companies you're looking for, or do you prefer to develop a solution together with software companies? So it's a kind of a buy versus build question with software. Do you have any view on that?
Well, as I said, because we believe that shipping industry is a special industry in terms of challenges. Always, I'm looking from the vessel perspective, because if the vessel was not in the equation, then okay, it's like running any other software in any kind of office. So, but when you put the vessel into the equation, that means that you have to take into consideration all the challenges. So, from this perspective, what we're trying to do is we're trying to choose software that has been tested in this kind of environment. We prefer to choose vendors that they have an experience in this industry. Of course, this does not limit our options when we're trying to cover a specific need. That is not either we can find a vendor for that, or the available options from the vendors does not fully cover our needs. Then we have the option, of course, to look for a software house that we can develop together the solution. But this is not going to be our first choice. It will be the second choice, and as long as we cannot cover our needs in the way we want.
Do you want to take one last question?
Yeah, so maybe about the change management. I would like to take two questions, because I can't select. There is about change management and also non-IT people, I think, in the projects. Let's take both of them, okay? Yeah, about change management. So what problems did you face in change management, and any ideas how to get everyone on board?
Well, that's a huge question. It may take 3 hours to. I don't know if you can give it. Try and finish in a couple of minutes. If anybody has a short answer to that. No, no short answers to.
But I can. Sorry, Stefanos, please.
Go ahead.
Well, okay, thank you, Stefanos. Well, from my perspective, I think this is a quick answer. I believe the key to this question is the communication. Stefanos already stated that very well about that you need to involve all the people, you need to let them know in advance, you need to make them part of the project. So even in the changing process, I believe that the key factor is communication. If you well communicate everything you're doing and every change you are planning to do, I think that that's the key factor to implement these changes without any resistance. I think that communication is the element that.
Great, Stefanos, sorry, did you want to?
From my point, what I just want to mention, I noticed this CEO comment, and I fully understand what you mean, and we know these people. The approach that we follow is that, like I said earlier, you find ambassadors. So you how to say, you don't ignore these CEOs, but you let them aside for a period, and you find ambassadors that are willing to go with to the new software, and then you expect gradually, slowly, the other to follow. You cannot impossibly get everyone on board from the beginning. It's impossible. You have to pick. That's why I also mentioned these 4 profiles of people. You have to pick the right people, get them on board, and then slowly you'll see everybody else will also come on board, one way or another, at some point or another. That's our approach.
Yeah, and I think in addition to that, so let's assume that you have approval from high management for a certain project, and people on the work floor, they are not really willing to change, or they don't really see the benefit. I think on one hand, the communication and showing what is in it for them, taking, including them early on. On the other hand, I think strong leadership is also essential here. At some point, management must just say, this is how we're going to do it, whether you like it or not, because we see the benefits of it and we believe it fits into our strategy. And so I think it goes both ways. So on one hand, communication, including people, listening to them, but on the other hand, also setting an example from management that this is the way to go.
Yeah, the last question, Vaida, wasn't it? I forgot.
Yeah, the last one is about, so if there are many non-IT people involved in software project itself, so how do you ensure that the project is technically successful and meets all the requirements?
Another huge question, isn't it?
All of them are very huge.
I was hoping, to be honest, that my presentation kind of answered that, but obviously it didn't. It's a huge question, yes. Obviously, the people that you are working with are non-IT. I take that as a granted. They are working in the various departments, as I mentioned earlier. They are doing their own work. They have some knowledge of IT, but you don't expect them to understand how software works or how we will test something, or how you need to do that. You need to explain all of this, and you need to be in the middle, and you will guarantee the technical success also, in the sense of infrastructure, of interfaces, of networks and all of that. They cannot possibly do that. So there needs to be someone, a special function in your company. Is it a PMO, maybe a project management office, or a business analysts department, something that will do this kind of translation for them. This is necessary.
Yes, Stefanos, I would say that, having a multidisciplinary team is essential in making your project a success. You need to have all expertise on board to cover all domains necessary to do a project.
And I think that, as Sifra said, the leader or the project manager is the one who's going to manage and lead all these different expertise to run the project smoothly. I mean, it goes without saying that that people from various departments or from various expertise will have to join, because the software project is not only technical. Of course, there is a foundation of technicalities that drives the project. But apart from that, actually, it is a project that some simple users are asked to use it and make benefit out of it. So it is a project that involves all kind of expertise, and the project manager or the leader or the one who is responsible for the success of this project will make sure that all these parts will work together smoothly for the successful result.